Jan Blachowicz, congratulations, my friend. He goes out there and does it in
the best in the world at 205 pounds, the undisputed UFC light heavyweight champion, Jan Blachowicz.
I want to fight in UFC for my life.
Lots of a rear naked shot. Oh, and he gets the tag. The Polish power, look at this. Oh, Judo's through, look at that takedown.
What a brilliant fight that was.
Now the path to light heavyweight gold and glory goes through Poland, Jan Blachowicz.
Hey everybody, and welcome back to Athlete Central. Today we are going to talk about the underdog of underdogs, the man with the legendary Polish power, the current UFC light heavyweight champion of the world, Jan Blachowicz.
But I'm happy, I'm proud that I can, show the world the legendary Polish power.
From the verge of being cut to a UFC champion, Jan's journey to the top has been incredible, with obstacles and hurdles in his way throughout. Blachowicz is looking for a second title defense against Brazilian veteran Glover Teixeira at UFC 267, so we thought we'd take a look at why the Pole was, and is, destined for greatness.
Great takedown. Thank you. Why you win? To takedown. Takedown is
Number 5. Early life. Little Jan grew up in the city of Szczecin in his native Poland, and action movies influenced him a lot in his early days, inspiring him to start training judo at the age of 9. He was quite the troublemaker in his early days, and although he wouldn't describe himself as a thug, he was always involved in fights. Safe to say, you wouldn't want to mess with little Jan on the playground. Fighting is in his blood. Physical education is the only class he actually enjoyed past the 3rd grade. Fun fact, Jan actually wanted to become a priest when he was little. His family is Christian and he wanted to devote his life to religion. But looking at where he's ended up now, it's safe to say that Jan chose the correct career path. Jan eventually ended up delving into the other martial arts to complement his judo abilities and pursue a full-time career in the sport. He started training kickboxing and Muay Thai, amassing a 34-0 kickboxing record and an amateur Muay Thai world title. Of course, not many people from Poland managed to have successful careers in mixed martial arts, but Jan set out to change that in his native promotion of KSW. Number 4. Mixed martial arts. Before entering Poland's premier promotion in 2007, the same year he made his pro debut, Jan was 3-1 in the regional circuit, with 2 TKOs to his name. After a surprising Kimura loss on his KSW debut to 2-9 Andre Fayet, things didn't seem so promising for Jan. That changed when he entered the KSW light heavyweight tournament. He was victorious after defeating 3 opponents in one night with 1 decision and 2 arm bars to claim the tournament. He then added 2 more submissions to his record before tearing his ACL in his right knee. The quality of his opponents was very good besides Fayet. He defeated fighters with records of 12-0, 10-1, 15-2, and 18-6, which is very impressive. After 17 months off due to injury, Jan entered the 2nd light heavyweight tournament, finishing 2 opponents in the same night and then defeating Daniel Tabera in the final to claim his 2nd tournament championship. Jan then faced Sokoudjou in the fight for the vacant light heavyweight belt, but lost after injuring his leg in the 2nd round. After bouncing back with a victory, Jan got a rematch with Sokoudjou, winning via unanimous decision. Blachowicz then defended his belt 3 times before getting the call from the UFC. Number 3. Struggles. Considering the champion has won 9 out of his last 10 fights, you wouldn't tell that he has struggled in the promotion, but that is very much not the case. The UFC threw Jan straight into the deep end, pitting him up against the young Ilir Lafiti. Blachowicz passed the test with flying colors, knocking him out in the 1st round. This gave him the opportunity to jump straight into the rankings against number 9 light heavyweight Jimmy Manuwa. This proved to be too much, too soon for the former KSW champion, losing the fight via unanimous decision. His next fight was against then prospect Corey Anderson, which he would also lose via UD. He would bounce back against Igor Pokrajac, which was quite a big step down in competition, but his losses would continue against Swedish standout Alexander Gustafsson and another decision loss for the Pole. His UFC record would be 2-4 after his loss to Pat Cummins, who made an incredible comeback after surviving the 1st round and snatching rounds 2 and 3 en route to a decision win. This was undoubtedly the lowest point in Jan's career. His manager and now wife, Dorota Yokosuka, detailed feeling ill in front of the computer after his defeat. Surely the UFC wanted to cut the Pole who had lost 4 of his last 5. Dorota says she immediately emailed Mick Maynard, pushing them to give Jan one more chance. She knew the UFC wanted to hold an event in Poland, and she insisted Jan be on that card because he's a huge star in Poland. Ultimately, the UFC gave Jan one more chance, putting him on that coveted path to greatness. Keep watching to see Jan's crazy comeback.
Number 2, UFC win streak.
The Gdansk event in 2017 essentially saved Jan's UFC career. He was pitted against American prospect Devin Clark, a matchup many, including the bookmakers, expected Jan to lose. Blachowicz stunned everyone with a rare standing rear naked choke finish in the second round, a submission that you've no doubt seen in UFC submission compilations. Jared Cannonier was the next man standing in Jan's way, a fight he dominated to a unanimous decision victory. Speaking of Cannonier, the title eliminator bout with Derek Brunson just got confirmed for UFC 270. Who do you guys have winning that one? Let us know in the comments below. Jan then avenged his loss to Jimmy Manuwa in a barn burner of a fight. You should definitely check it out if you haven't. This fight catapulted him to the top 5, and after a second round submission win over Fight Night Global Champ Nikita Krylov, he found himself in a title eliminator against Brazilian powerhouse Thiago Santos. From almost being cut to the verge of a title shot in just 4 fights, that was already incredible, but unfortunately, Jan would suffer a KO loss at the hands of the Brazilian, briefly halting his momentum. Jan then assumed the gatekeeper role for Jon Jones. If you beat Jan, you're ready for Jones. This went on for 3 fights against Luke Rockhold, whom he KO'd stiff, a lackluster decision over Jacare, and another emphatic win over Corey Anderson. Safe to say, Jan ruined the UFC's hopes of promoting fighters off the back of his losses.
Fun fact.
Jan's turnaround coincided with a new, weird tradition. The fighter unfortunately found a dead man hanging in the forest while walking his dog. In the old days, people used to take a piece of the rope for good luck. Jan didn't go that far, but he claims that ever since discovering the body, he goes to the forest before every fight to touch the rope for good luck. Please, can Tony touch that rope for a career turnaround as well?
Number 1, the belt.
After Jan's upset wins, it was clear to see that he was becoming a star of his own. And after Jones vacating his title to move up to heavyweight, it was a no-brainer to have Jan in the vacant title fight. His opponent was Dom Reyes, who was a massive favorite considering a lot of people thought he won that Jones fight. Blachowicz won that fight very convincingly, using elite-level kickboxing to get a second-round knockout over the counterpuncher Reyes. 205 entered a new era. The first champion not named Jon Jones or Daniel Cormier since 2013. The era of the legendary Polish Power. The first challenger for Jan was middleweight champion Israel Adesanya. Another example of Jan being a stepping stone instead of a star. This fight would give Stylebender double champ status, paving the way to a super fight against Jon Jones. Jan would spoil the UFC's plans yet again with a dominant performance, winning 4 rounds on all 3 judges' scorecards. In this 9-1 streak for Jan, he has only been the betting favorite in 1 of those fights. This means he's beat the odds 8 times. People that have stuck with him must have made a hell of a lot of money from his fights. The bookmakers are finally starting to put some respect on Jan's name though.
Like, my legs are fatigued a little bit. Good guard game, very good guard game. I mean, fast. Made me look like a bodyguard.
You pay good?
Huh?
You pay good money?
What?
You pay good money for
what?
For bodyguard. I can be your bodyguard.
Oh no, I said good guard, good guard.
Good guy.
He is a minus 265 favorite for his title defense against Glover Teixeira for UFC 267. His great journey looks set to continue with this title defense. There's even debate about whether he would beat Jones or not.
And I prove that I'm the next contender for the title shot. Let's talk about my next opponent, Jon Jones. You promised me that in the show when I meet you. You are next. Let's do this. Give me the place and time.
People are now respecting Jan, and there are a lot of exciting matchups for the 38-year-old before retirement, against the likes of Yuri Prohaska, Alexander Rakic, and Magomed Ankalaev, the new blood of the division. How long do you think Jan will hold the belt for? Let us know in the comments below. Well, alright, thank you guys so much for watching today's video. Make sure to like and subscribe to never miss an Athlete Central video. Comment what video you would like to see us make next. Until next time.